Murderland is sort of designed to be an offbeat crime anthology series that initially in the first arc we set up a character called the A-Rabber, who's named for his father's profession, his grandfather's profession, which is people who sell produce from horse-drawn carriages in Baltimore. And in fact, there are only a handful of them left in the world. And so I wanted to create an excuse for people to ask what the hell is an A-Rabber. But eventually he will become the sort of crick keeper to our series of stories. And you know, wandering the streets of Baltimore, telling ghost stories, telling straight crime stories, human drama, you know, all across the board.
That's cool. Yeah, I was looking through the first pages of Murderland, and I just saw a couple of preview pages, but it looked like there's a woman who can look any way and be anything, kind of automatically.
In a sense, Method is a sort of a chameleon character, and she's not exactly a shapeshifter. She just happens to, by sheer force of will, be able to control her bodily tissues and their replication. So she can grow her hair on command. She can, you know, become incredibly obese or incredibly strong, or in some cases sprout, you know, bizarre bone appendages that sometimes come in handy.
So is she going to be like, is this like a superhero? Is she a spy?
She's a true anti-hero. She's someone who grew up in an acting family, and by watching her mother deal with the slings and arrows of being a struggling actress, and then in trying to do that herself before she was discovered and perverted into becoming a killer for hire. She developed this intense loathing for humanity, and she just happens, though, to be drawn to this character, the A-Rabber, when he's tasked with mentoring her and helping her develop her abilities.
What did you say? The A-Rabber?
The A-Rabber.
A-Rabber. Okay.
And again, those are you know, a small group of people now, but traditionally they're a long tradition of people who sell produce and other wares from horse-drawn carriages, primarily in towns like Philadelphia and Baltimore, although now they only exist in Baltimore, which is where the book is set.
And that's where you're from as well, right?
That is where I'm born and raised.
So what inspired you for Murderland?
Well, really just first of all, a combination of the comic books that I grew up reading, the films that I grew up watching, and then just the city that I live in, and as well as the pop cultural lexicon that's grown up around there through the films of John Waters and Barry Levinson, who are very different filmmakers, and then, you know, Tom Fontana, who was one of the developers of Homicide and Life on the Streets back in the 90s. And but then also just the bizarre, the quirky little, you know, arts community that's grown up around Baltimore, and just the strange sense of humor that comes from being a lower tier city that's known for all of its ills, and still manages somehow to call itself Charm City.
So is Murderland going to be an ongoing series or a series of miniseries?
It's intended to be an ongoing series. The first arc is 4 issues intentionally, so, you know, if God forbid it does take a halt, people don't feel left adrift. And then the intention after that 4-issue series, where we introduce some of the core characters, it'll be largely self-contained stories. Every once in a while, a 2 or 3 issue thing, but I wanted to design something that, first of all, I can take in different directions on a dime, but can also, people can also come into, just with 1 issue and maybe get drawn in and not have to go back and read past trades, but then we'll hopefully enjoy it and pick them up. But and I also, going back to Homicide, Life on the Street, I was really, one thing I really loved about that series was that even though you had a longer, series of arcs where you were following the same characters, they had these wonderful self-contained stories that harkened back to a lot of the comic books that I really loved, the horror comics and the crime comics and thriller comics that I really came up loving, and I wanted to start to bring that back in a way that still fits into the way people are reading comics these days. And
you've got David Hahn doing the artwork. What's that like working with him?
David Hahn's a pleasure to work with, and in fact, this book probably wouldn't be on this table without him. This is my first book, and to have a veteran in the industry take an interest in my idea and really want to, first of all, teach me some of the ropes and give me access to some of the great people who've helped us out along the way. That alone has been amazing, but then there's just the fact that he's such an intensely disciplined artist and has this really interesting, friendly style that can still show a certain edge, and makes our book a little bit more approachable than it might otherwise be, but without it losing a certain credibility and a certain authenticity. And beyond that, I also tend to write as though I'm writing for the screen for an actor, and I really needed somebody who could get personality traits and emotion, subtle emotion across in the characters, as well as distinguish method, a character who is constantly changing her appearance from other women in the book. And David achieves all of that. And again, very lucky to have him.
That's great. Well, thanks again for talking with us. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We are actually in Portland going to be doing a release party for Murderland August 4th. And you'll be able to meet David Hahn. Unfortunately, Stephen Scott will be laying on a beach somewhere.
Sunning myself for a change.
Well, thanks a lot.